Have you ever wondered how to capture the stunning northern lights with your camera? Welcome, friends, to the mesmerizing world of the northern lights, or, as they're scientifically known, the aurora borealis. These natural light spectacles, painted across the polar skies, are a celestial ballet of light dancing in the night. The northern lights are caused by collisions between electrically charged particles from the sun that enter the Earth's atmosphere. The lights are seen above the magnetic poles of the northern and southern hemispheres. They paint the sky with an eerie glow, varying in color and complexity, from greenish-yellow hues to beautiful blues or blood-red curtains. Photographers around the globe are drawn to this spectacle, not merely for its ethereal beauty, but also for the challenge it presents. Capturing this elusive and unpredictable phenomenon requires skill, patience, and a little bit of luck. By the end of this video, you'll know how to take outstanding photos of this natural wonder. First things first, you need the right gear. Let's dive into the essentials. The star of the show, quite literally, is your camera. A DSLR or mirrorless camera is your best bet. With their large sensors and extensive manual controls, they allow you to capture the northern lights in all their ethereal beauty. Your camera should have the ability to control shutter speed and aperture manually, allowing you to adjust according to the intensity of the lights. Next up, we have the loyal sidekick, the tripod. This is not a place to skimp. A sturdy, reliable tripod is a must-have. Shooting the northern lights involves long exposure times, often several seconds or more. Even the slightest shake can blur the image, turning a breathtaking spectacle into a blurry mess. Now let's talk lenses. A wide-angle lens is your friend here. It allows you to capture a larger portion of the sky, thus maximizing the chance of getting that perfect shot of the dancing lights. Look for a lens with a wide aperture, something like f2, 8, or wider. This allows more light to enter the camera, which is critical when you're photographing a phenomenon that is, by nature, elusive and unpredictable. Finally, let's discuss batteries. Cold temperatures are notorious for draining battery life, and believe me, it gets cold in the north of Norway. Always pack more batteries than you think you'll need. Imagine the northern lights putting on a grand display, and your camera blinking out because of a dead battery. Not a scenario you'd want to find yourself in. In addition to these, don't forget a good headlamp for navigating in the dark and a remote shutter release to eliminate any chance of camera shake. Add in a comfortable, warm set of clothing and you're all set. With the right equipment, you're already halfway there. Now let's move on to the next part, which is knowing how to use this equipment effectively to capture the awe-inspiring spectacle that is the northern lights. Now that you have your gear, let's talk settings. You've got your camera, your tripod, and you're under the vast starry sky. You're ready to capture the breathtaking beauty of the northern lights. But first, you need to understand the right camera settings. These are not just buttons and dials on your camera, but the keys to unlocking the magic of the aurora. First off, you must shoot in manual mode. This gives you the freedom to adjust all settings according to the unique conditions of the northern lights. In automatic mode, your camera makes guesses based on standard conditions, and let's be honest, there's nothing standard about the aurora borealis. Next, let's talk about ISO. ISO controls your camera's sensitivity to light. For northern lights photography, you'll need a higher ISO, somewhere between 1600 and 3200. However, keep in mind that a higher ISO can lead to more grain or noise in your image. So, start low and gradually increase until you find the sweet spot, moving on to aperture. This controls the amount of light that enters your camera. You'll want to set your aperture to the lowest possible value, which means opening the lens as wide as possible. This allows as much light as possible to hit the sensor, crucial for capturing the elusive lights. Lastly, shutter speed. This determines how long your camera's sensor is exposed to light. For the northern lights, you'll need a longer exposure, typically between 15 and 30 seconds. But be cautious. Too long an exposure can result in star trails, which might distract from the main attraction, the aurora. Fine-tuning these settings will require some trial and error. The northern lights are unpredictable, and the ideal settings can change from night to night. But don't let this intimidate you. Embrace the challenge and remember, every adjustment brings you one step closer to that perfect shot. Understanding your camera settings is crucial to capturing the northern lights effectively. So get out there, experiment, and let the night sky be your canvas. Timing and location are key to viewing the northern lights. There's a certain magic that surrounds the spectacle of the aurora borealis, but catching a glimpse of this celestial ballet is not just a matter of luck. It requires careful planning and an understanding of the ideal conditions that make for the perfect viewing experience. Let's start by talking about the best time of year to see the northern lights in Norway. The aurora borealis is a winter phenomenon, so your best bet is to plan your trip between late September and late March. During this period, the nights are long and dark, creating the perfect backdrop for the lights to dance across the sky. The darker the night, the more vivid the aurora will appear. However, keep in mind that the northern lights are unpredictable and can appear on any dark night, so it's a good idea to plan to stay for at least a week to maximize your chances. Locations also play a vital role in viewing the northern lights. In Norway, the further north you go, the higher your chances of seeing the lights. Tromsø, for instance, is a popular destination due to its location well within the Arctic Circle. It's also worth noting that while urban areas can offer some great viewing spots, you'll want to head into more rural areas to escape the light pollution and get the best view possible. Clear skies are another crucial factor. Cloud cover can obscure the aurora, so it's essential to keep an eye on the weather forecast and be ready to move if necessary. The northern lights can change quickly, appearing and disappearing in just a few minutes, so being prepared to adapt your plans can make all the difference. Lastly, don't forget the importance of patience. Viewing the northern lights is a waiting game, and while it can be cold and sometimes frustrating, the reward is truly worth it. Choosing the right time and place will significantly increase your chances of capturing the northern lights. So, plan wisely, venture into the darkness, and let the mesmerizing dance of the aurora borealis light up your night. Now you're at the right place with the right settings, it's time to compose your shot. The composition, after all, is the soul of your image. It's what draws the viewer's eye and tells the story of the awe-inspiring northern lights. Begin by considering your foreground elements. A fascinating photo of the northern lights is not just about the ethereal lights dancing in the sky, but also about the context. Including interesting foreground elements can make your image more dynamic and engaging. Perhaps a silhouette of a jagged mountain range, or the tranquil surface of a frozen lake reflecting the lights, or even a lonely cabin with its windows warmly aglow. These elements can add depth and scale to your image, enhancing the grandeur of the northern lights. Next, think about your perspective. Shooting from a low angle can accentuate the magnitude of the sky and the lights, making them appear more vast and dramatic. On the other hand, a high vantage point can offer a panoramic view of the landscape under the celestial spectacle, creating a sense of awe and wonder. Don't be afraid to experiment with your composition. Try different focal lengths. Wide-angle lenses can capture the vast expanse of the sky and landscape, while telephoto lenses can focus on a particular part of the lights, revealing their intricate patterns and colors. Remember to use the rule of thirds to balance your composition. Imagine dividing your frame into a grid of 9 equal squares. Place the northern lights along these lines or at the intersections, and see how it affects the visual balance of your image. Also, play around with your exposure times. Longer exposures can reveal more colors and movements of the lights, while shorter exposures can freeze the lights in motion, capturing their fleeting shapes and forms. With a bit of creativity and patience, you can create stunning images of the northern lights. So take your time, experiment, and most importantly, enjoy the process. After all, you're not just capturing an image, but a magical moment in time. So to recap what we've covered in this video, we started our journey by understanding the captivating phenomenon of the northern lights. We then dove into essential gear required for this adventure, including a sturdy tripod, a camera with manual controls, and a wide-angle lens, not forgetting extra batteries and warm clothing. Following this, we explored the ideal camera to capture the lights in all their glory. Remember, a slower shutter speed, a wide aperture, and a higher ISO are your best friends here. Next, we discussed the perfect conditions for viewing the lights. Clear, dark skies away from city lights, and preferably during the colder months. Finally, we touched on composition and experimentation. Don't forget to include some landscape features for a sense of scale and context, and to try out perspectives. With these tips in mind, you're now ready to capture the stunning northern lights. Happy shooting! If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow photography enthusiasts. Happy shooting!